Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Public Works and Safety Committee meeting of Wednesday, June 13, 2018. And the first item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion by Bueller? Second by Y. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. The second item on the agenda is the public input period, and this is the time for someone to come up and talk about something not on the agenda if they so wish. Is there anyone here to do that? Seeing none, I'll move on. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion second for approval? Moved by Danforth, second by Manty. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item number 4 is review of the fireworks permitting procedure. And I believe Chip Primus is here to give us a little presentation.
Hello, Chip Primus, Watertown Fire Rescue. Basically what we were talking about last year when the council started approving the fireworks permits, we thought we better give a little educational process to the council and input on how we do fireworks permits and what we look at for safety reasons and things we consider in the community. And as you can see, those are some examples of some of the permitting that we've done the last couple of years. And what we do is we don't let everybody just come and get a fireworks permit. They'll come and ask the fire department on, can we get a fireworks permit? And we kind of ask for what reasons and where they're going to be shot off. For the biggest reason, we stay away from the residential areas, to keep the peace in the neighborhood, and it's more for big events. And we need for the fireworks, we need it to be set off in a safe location. And NFPA 1123, that's the book that talks about fireworks and the safety reasons. It'd be the standoff distance, crowd distance. There's many things in there for safety reasons, and we give this to everybody that request a fireworks permit, and they have to follow the regulations in the NFPA 1123. And then I did some examples of state law in there and the city ordinance. I guess I'd like to know if you guys have any inputs or questions on the fireworks process. What we do is we review this, and you'll see on the example there what we do. When they're a public show, we have the city named in the insurance policy that the person who's the professional that's doing the fireworks, name the city in that. Liability insurance. This is one example of, this is a very generic overhead map of where this was for the burning of the W, and the distributor, showed an area, and then where the discharge area is. What we've done now is we're actually having them put the distances on the map. You'll see that coming forward of the discharge area, the safety area, how many feet, and that's how we do it. Any questions, concerns?
I do have one.
Danforth?
Chip, what would the instances of a permit being issued in a residential area? I think you had, up there you had like 3 that were in residential areas or at residences. Give me examples of when we do that.
In 2016, it was for a long time. It's been kind of a free for all for permits. People that had a professional to shoot them off, we would, the game was on. And after last year's incidents and with over the 4th of July, we've had public outcry more or less on the neighborhoods don't want it in the neighborhoods. And so that's when we started implementing and looked into more 11 23 on, well, actually they don't meet the standards to be shooting in a residential area, the safety standards. So that's when we start denying them for that reason alone on the display. So it was just the one we did deny. I haven't had any other residential requests since we denied the one. One of them was the one that I denied was over Christmas time. They wanted to shoot some fireworks off in the ice. It was just a single family wanted to do some fireworks, and we, at that point, we hadn't set the parameters of how we're going to control the fireworks permitting and private party, not professionals. We took that in consideration. That's when we denied that one.
Is there any instance in which we would issue a permit to a residential
No.
applicant? Okay.
Councilman Vilhauer?
Chip, Dan Rottershot was here last fall sometime, and I know he made the comment that if I recall correctly, that there were some inconsistencies between our permit application and some state laws, if I'm not mistaken, and he was going to work with his contacts, and maybe I should probably get you involved. Has that been done, or maybe where are we at on that?
It's in the process right now, and what that was, and that's a good question, it was with the terminology that the state uses in the law. I think they were made in the 50s for fireworks, and it's never been updated to meet current standard today's. And what one of it was the state law says display. Well, fireworks, there's two different types. You have the 1.3, that's the big stuff that you have to have a special license to shoot off, and then the 1.4 are the ones that you and I can buy over the 4th of July and 2 days around Christmas, or it's more during the 4th of July that we can buy them and legally set them off. And the terminology, what we did then is, as for the fire department, we're treating the 1.3s and the 1.4s, if they're going to be a public display, they're going to follow the 1123 rules. And the authority having jurisdiction, which is the fire department, we can set that standard for safety to the community. So that's where part of the terminology is not aligned on what NFPA says, what the fireworks industry says in the state law. So right now during the summer off session, Lou does have, or Dan has, the right verbiage and going around, so that should be done next year.
Chip, can you please review for us what is allowable for a private person to do? When can they set off fireworks and where?
Sure, I can do that, Mayor.
We're talking about permitting shows, not really what you do in your...
In the 4th of July? Or
yes.
Okay. For permitting shows, the area or when, we've kind of, it goes all year round unless during the 4th of July. We have that week period that the state allows, not in city limits, but the state, if the state law says between this date and this date you can shoot fireworks off in the state of South Dakota, but we have a city ordinance that says only on the 4th of July that we are allowed to shoot fireworks off at Lake Compeska under the high water mark. And that's the only area in town where it is legal to shoot off fireworks is on that one day, unless it takes a city council to approve anything different than that.
Okay.
Yes. Did I answer your question?
Right, because the ordinance that you put up there makes it look like, and that sounds like it's true, except for the 4th of July, it's not legal anywhere in the city to set off fireworks.
That's correct.
Without a permit, and the permit would be for a public display.
It'd have to meet the 1123 display category of public-private. That's part of the terminology that Glenn was saying. With the state law, it can be a private party, say a wedding, but it would have to be held at a golf course or an area where it met the standards of 1123, all the safety standards, and that's the only way we'll approve it as a fire department, is it meets all those safety standards.
Right, and then some things like snakes and they're smoke
Yes.
bombs or whatever you call them. There's certain things that are exempt.
Yes, there's some exempt, and I can, it says, no person shall sell or display the view of to the public in any stores or, I want to make sure, I'll just read ahead here. Okay, approval for fireworks, all amendments, therefore, to which include the following items: party poppers, not to exceed 25 grains, snaps, sparklers, and toy caps. And flitter sparklers are legal to shoot in the city.
So bottle rockets,
No.
no go on those.
Nope,
That's-
anything that goes boom and flies in the air. You know, the caps and the, fireworks are not allowed, firecrackers. Because we have a lot of, there's several calls throughout around the 4th of July the police department has to respond to. And, we're for just doing it on the 4th of July at the lake, just for part of that reason. When it was opened up last year, we had a lot of complaints from people that were upset about, a free-for-all all week long at the lake, and that's where this came into play. And then then the officers, told us about the problems they have enforcing the law when it's so inconsistent every year. That we change it. Okay, we can do it this day. You can do it this day. If it states there on the 4th of July, it's easier for the law enforcement to enforce at the lake. But any other time, there's no fireworks in town.
And we're consistent with the state law.
We're
not in conflict with it.
No, we're not in conflict with the state law.
Right. Okay.
We're more strict
yes.
on that, just for the public safety aspect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is very timely. Appreciate it. We'll probably should mention it again at our next meeting, which is right before the 4th. So I know it's an issue this time of year.
Yes, and we'll have press releases put out and stuff to remind the public that what the rules are for fireworks.
Yes.
We'll get that done for you.
Are there other questions for Chip while he's here? Thank you, Chip.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion on speed limits around Lake Compesca. And Pete, if you could bring that first map up that's in the attachment. We have lots of different speed limits around the lake, as you can see on this: 15, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45 miles per hour around the lake. And we have had complaints about that, particularly that 40 mile an hour speed. That's too high. We've had complaints even that the 25 is too high in places. And so we're looking at changing our speed limits at the lake. And we can do that without public input, but we choose not to do that without public input. There will be a public hearing on Monday at the 5:30 City Council meeting to talk about a proposed change. And it's, Pete, if you'll go to the second page. What we're proposing is 30 miles an hour on the north and west side of the lake and 25 miles an hour on the south and east part of the lake, with the exception of the highway that we don't have any authority over. Highway 20 is 45. And there's a little stretch at our golf course where the speed limit is 15. And so this is what we'll be proposing, and we would like public input. And if anyone wants to weigh in on this before we make a decision, Monday council meeting starts at 5:30. That would be the time to do it. Anybody want to add to that? Glenn?
Actually, just curious, Mayor or anybody else up here, this has come up a couple different times now. Briefly, has anybody gotten much feedback from anybody, one way or the other, on this?
I've had comments that 40 seems really inappropriate.
And that's comments that I've gotten too, but I've
Too high.
Yeah. Another question. I was out there yesterday, and where you turn off Old 139, I call it Old 139, and start going by Sandy Shores, and then coming the other way on 4th Avenue by the water tower. Those are actually marked as being county roads.
Yes. We may not have the authority to make it 25 all the way, but I spoke with a couple of the commissioners this morning who they feel that uniformity is good and that they'd probably piggyback with us on if there's a segment in there that we don't have authority to change, just to keep it consistent.
Okay. And then one more comment. Actually, I think Chief McPeak brought this to my attention. As you turn off, again, Old 139 and head towards Sandy Shores, right now that's a 45 zone in there. That is a big open stretch. I mean, there is not much along there. I wonder, we can still keep uniformity if we would consider making that a 30 rather than a 25, because I got a feeling we're going to get quite a bit of pushback. First of all, that's county, but if we do want to, if the commissioners do agree, I think we're going to get pushback dropping that all the way to 25, and I wonder if maybe that wouldn't be a stretch where 30 would be a consideration.
Which section?
On the bottom there.
On the bottom where you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Once you get past Sandy
Yeah,
Shore.
we'll have to talk about that.
Then once you hit Sandy Shores, I'm all in favor of going to the 25, but up to Sandy Shore, that's a big open stretch that just isn't much there. That 25 is going to be awfully slow through there.
I agree with Glenn. I don't know if 30 is the number, but I think 25 is definitely too slow for that segment, I think.
Yeah. And currently it's 45.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely look at that. Mm-hmm. And we want to know what people think, so please, yes. Thank you, Bruce. Is there any old business for the Public Works Committee? Any new business? I know Councilman Danforth would like to discuss mowing. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. We're in that time of year, and it really pertains to snow removal and to mowing, but it seems like we have instances where landowners, property owners, don't maintain their yards at the level that they should. And so the grasses get long, the weeds get bad, and we go through this process of having to notify them, and it takes us a while before we can mow it, and the people that live next door are upset, and one of my concerns is that we're not in the business of mowing and taking care of private properties. I think that we should consider, if we can, it's probably a Matt issue initially, but where we give a notice and we'll take care of it, and we charge them for that. But at some point, we either need to contract that out and they get billed, or we have an increased charge because there's no motivation for them to not take care of their property. We seem to have, most years, we kind of have the same owners doing the same things or not doing what they should be doing. So, all we're doing is just taking care of their property, and we have resources that could be used in other ways and not taking care of public property. So I think it should get looked at in some manner as to how we're doing it, and if we're going to continue doing it, then I think there has to be, with each occurrence, there has to be an increased cost to the point at which they're either going to decide it's too expensive and then they're going to take care of it themselves.
Right. I agree with you. And currently, we charge a rate that is higher than the local rates. I don't know that we incrementally increase if we do it more than once, but that's something we could definitely consider. The street superintendent knows all about this.
Hi there, Rob Bainin here. Currently when we get a mow order from code enforcement, we do charge $100 per hour per man to mow if we have to go out and mow. So that's basically from when we leave the shop until we're done mowing the yard, which a lot of times consists of weed eating too. So that's where we're at currently.
But we don't up it if we go back there again a second time in
we
the summer.
We haven't, no. But there is property in town that we've been mowing. Up on North Broadway is one that comes to mind that we've mowed for probably 3 years.
Yes, and absolutely, we do not want to take business from any private business that provides mowing, so we want to be more expensive with our fine. But we also want to make sure that we're giving incentive for property owners to take care of their own, because we don't want to continue to do that.
Well, I fully agree, and we just have to make sure that, we have, Mary, you've seen it a lot this year already, where we have ballparks and we've got parks and we've got other areas that are city properties where people have expressed concerns with their upkeep. I'd rather have our resources go into taking care of our property, not somebody else's property.
Absolutely.
And so there has to be an incentive for them to take care of it themselves. It's just too easy to let it go and then just get a bill. They don't have to manage anything.
Right, and they can make a financial decision just as we will be. We'll be considering upping how much we pay in our budget for mowing this year. When we look at the budget, we struggle to find bodies to operate mowers, and we were slow this year getting enough people on machines. We're fully staffed now, but this time of year the grass grows very fast, and we want to be taking care of our own stuff. We have more than enough.
Mayor, if I may.
Councilman Bueller?
Just something else. We've had discussions at Park and Rec, something we're looking at too, and as far as resources go, and that is to look into the possibility of outsourcing a lot of the mowing that we do. And I'm not saying outsource all of it, but certain segments, because we've grown. I mean, obviously with the ball fields and some of the expansion we've had in the community, there's a lot more burden. Maybe it's not as many people and equipment to take care of all of that. And I think we need to take a serious look at the possibility of outsourcing some of that mowing that we do. And I have one question. I'm sorry, Beth. Just one question too. As far as enforcement goes, did we say it's got to be like 8 inches tall before we? Yes. That's kind of the parameter
they get their notice on the door or from the code enforcement officer. Their first contact is when it exceeds 8 inches, and then they get the opportunity to do it themselves. The code enforcement officer has to follow up whenever he does that to see if they have mowed, and if they haven't, then it reaches the next level, and finally they contact one of our departments to actually do the work. And I don't know if anyone other than Street does the code enforcement mowing. Do you
Currently,
know?
we're the only ones that are following up with code enforcement.
Are we doing that on a complaint basis, or are we doing it? How are we finding these places? In other words,
I think Brent, two things: the properties that are constantly being a problem, he checks on, but also by call-ins. If there's complaints, he'll check it out, and then he'll process from there. So,
okay, Councilman Lallam.
Are we seeing this on like foreclosure type properties, Rob? Or is that one of them?
I think that's the majority of
Okay.
the issues. I know the one on North Broadway, that house has not been occupied for several years. Actually, it's kind of becoming a problem because our guys this time actually had to clear debris out of the yard that somebody had piled in the yard, construction debris.
Well,
So-
my question would be, can we contract, send out a bid for people to do that type of mowing so you guys aren't forced to do that? And can we find them on top of that? So not only do we
Yes.
charge them the
We can.
amount per, what it costs to actually mow it, but you're also getting fined, which could be an incremental increase every time that they're out there. So if it's not, if you're out there, it's $100 the first time, maybe it's $150 the second. Well, you could be by the end of the summer, you might be paying $500 a time.
Mhm.
That's going to get someone's attention far more than just, I get a bill. Well, if a landscape guy or a mowing guy is going to charge me $85 and you charge me $100, so I pay $15 more, and I get an extra week and a half or 2 weeks before I have to do it again.
I don't know. Would there be any liability issues with private property with contractors versus the city doing it? Would there be any issues in that regard?
Nothing you probably couldn't take care of with a well-written contract and insurance requirements.
I know utilities, they contract out their mowing for a lot of their properties, so I'm sure they have
I'm
something.
Sure we can do it.
Yeah.
Yep. Councilwoman Manti, did you want
think everybody's on the right track, and Adam kind of took the same thing I was. But any interaction I've had with any community that has tried to improve the quality of their appearance and things like that, they have been very aggressive. I'm talking about, 100, 200, 500, 1,000. They up in Pettigrew Heights, they laid those fines on by the week, by the event. They gave timelines for completion of certain activities, whether it be mowing or construction of a porch, and if those days weren't met, they were fined by the day until those properties were cared for. And I don't see any reason. I had a note, are we maximizing our ability and our responsibility to maximize our fining process? I don't mean to be fine happy. I'm saying, are we letting things slide that we should be looking at, because we are, doing manpower. We are, there's a cost to us beyond just the cost of the mowing. And so our only recourse to collect that, of course, is our fining process. And I'm not sure that we're using that to its full.
Probably not. We can up it if there's a need. Councilman Y?
Rob, so this particular property, you said you've been mowing it for 3 years. Are we getting paid every year, or is that an issue too? Once these people are having their lawns mowed, is the city getting reimbursed?
I can't answer that. I don't. Kristen might know on that. What we do is after we mow it, I sign off on the mow order for the amount, and then we send it back up to code enforcement, and they process the mow orders from there. But I don't know if Kristen would know that or not.
I would say it is kind of a mix. I mean, we do have those who, when they get the bill, they do come in and pay. The one thing with the weeds is they have until a certain amount, and then the council approves it being put onto their property. So it is sent to the county, I think, around September, October, if they have not paid at that time. So it does stay with the property, too.
I think that property on North Broadway would probably end up being, I haven't looked into it, but it's probably a deal that there probably is a lien against it, I'm assuming. But it's probably just building. But a lot of I signed off in the last 2 weeks on 2 properties that are costing the property owner $200 for each one of those, and I signed off on 2 today that were $100 a piece. So on some of these smaller properties where the grass is real tall and we have to go over it a couple times and weed eat and stuff, it's, $200 isn't cheap to have a small yard mowed. So, but maybe it's not enough. I don't know. That's,
Other comments or questions?
Rob, is this, do you have a minimum that you charge?
Yeah, $100 an hour minimum. It's a minimum charge of $100.
Their minimum is going to be 100, so they're going to have an hour, whether it's 15 minutes
exactly.
or okay. That was my other question.
Right. Any other comments? Thank you, Rob. Okay. Any other new business? There's no need to go into executive session, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Wise, second by Councilman Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. We are